Hi, and welcome. I'm Kendra Corman with HDH Consulting and president of the Troy Blue Marlins. Today's member highlight features Steve Hyer of IGD Solutions. IGD Solutions makes the complex world of the internet and websites easy for people and companies to understand and leverage to their advantage. I personally work with Steve often and definitely recommend him for all the hard work that they do. So welcome, Steve.
Thank you. Glad to be here today. Excited to talk with you.
Thanks. So can you tell us a little bit about yourself and how you got started with IGD Solutions?
Sure. Way back in 1999, the internet was exploding. It was just taking off, and people didn't exactly know what it was or what it was going to be or what it could be. And people had all kinds of crazy ideas. And I'd always been involved in technology. And I thought there's got to be a way to take advantage of this sort of craze and maybe not such a crazy way. And so we actually started as an educational content company. And part of the original vision was that every college and high school student in the United States reads, kind of the same set of books that are out there. And it was actually a web property that was very small when we acquired it. It was summary kinds of things, but it wasn't billed as a cheat sheet. So there was literary analysis and key quotes and character analysis. And we built it as a curriculum supplement. And so teachers loved it because our pitch wasn't look at our website and don't read the book. It was read the book and we'll help you understand what you're reading. And it was great. And we had millions and millions and millions of visitors. We had ads. We got paid with ad revenue. And we kept developing original content. We licensed that content in many cases because it was our own original content. And as a result, we had web developers. And those web developers weren't 100% busy with everything we needed them to do. They had capacity. And so we started doing some work for other companies. And then as we got into 2000 and the writing was sort of on the wall that the craziness of the internet wasn't going to last. So we started doing more and more work for other companies. And that has kind of led to where we are today of working with businesses and helping them navigate that world. And we've since sold off all of our educational content and licensing, and we're not in that business anymore. But I remember back in the early days, one of my early flyers was 10 reasons why you needed a website. When we started, it wasn't even a foregone conclusion that you would do a website. Today, everybody assumes if you're in business, you have a web presence. And now the conversation is really how much do you want to do with it, or how are you going to market it, or how do you leverage it? It's not a question of do you need one. And that's how things have changed in the last 22 or 23 years here.
Wow. And I think that that's a great transition to my next question, which is, what are you seeing right now with people needing in terms of websites? What are they coming to you for?
Right now, the big thing is e-commerce. People that have, traditionally not been transactional online, in a world that isn't as face-to-face as it used to be, now it's much more transactional online. And so companies that have ignored doing business online and transacting business online are really behind, and even if you're a retail location, ordering things online, doing curbside, understanding what's in the store. Going in and browsing and poking around is just not what it used to be. People are leveraging the ease of internet shopping more than ever. And I think people's desire to shop local and patronize local businesses is still maybe stronger than ever. And if they don't have a way to do that remotely, that really puts those businesses at a disadvantage. And sometimes people think e-commerce is just a shopping cart. It's a catalog online. Not necessarily. We do a lot of payment portals, professional services businesses. If you're not in the office to cut checks, which a lot of people are working remotely, paying with a credit card is easier. And allowing somebody to jump onto your website and giving them multiple ways to pay and settle their account is definitely a positive thing. So sometimes e-commerce takes the form of a payment portal. Gift certificates are always a hot item as we come up to Valentine's Day. If you're at all in a business that deals with massages or candy or any of the kind of things that are gifted around Valentine's Day or even Mother's Day for that matter, being able to buy gift certificates online is huge. And even restaurants that are closed in Michigan, obviously for in-person dining has been closed for a little bit now, hopefully reopening momentarily. in some capacity, but in the case of being able to still transact business, you could still sell gift certificates. And again, people want to patronize local businesses. So I think e-commerce is a big one. Security is another big one. You know, Google will label websites not secure, and that tends to rattle people a little bit when they see that. It doesn't particularly mean anything different than it has, but Google is the 800-pound gorilla in this business, and if they do something like that, people want to know, how do I get that off of there? I don't want my customers to think something's wrong. So we've been dealing with that, helping customers navigate that world and figuring out the right solution so their website can be labeled secure and have the little lock up in the corner if you're using Google. And then mobile is another big one. You know, some people have ignored mobile. It's really hard to ignore mobile today because we're only doing more and more and more mobile, especially with people not sitting in their offices. A lot of traffic was people at work sitting at their desktop computer. That's not so much a thing anymore. People are using tablets more. They're using their phone more. You know, they're working at home more. All of those trends point to an explosion in mobile traffic coming up. And if you're not leveraging that by, you know, making your website friendly in mobile, and that doesn't just necessarily mean, you know, it sizes correctly and it's easy to use. It means, like, do you have PDF forms that you download? You know, you don't typically interact with PDF forms on your phone. So there's a lot of considerations with what you're doing. You can't hover on a phone. So if your website has effects that maybe they work great on a desktop computer, where you hover your mouse over a section and information pops up, when it comes to the phone, that's not something that works. You know, so you can't have information hidden in that way. I was just looking at a website the other day where their bio page was a bunch of pictures. And if you hovered over the picture, you saw the bio and the contact information. Well, that doesn't work on a phone. You know, so that's something that needs to be adjusted. And you can still do that on the desktop if it makes sense, but there has to be another way to do it mobile, and we've been doing a lot of that as well. Those are a few things that seem to be hot right now.
Okay. No, and I think that that's great, because I definitely think that e-commerce, the payment portals, you know, for people that have been, you know, accepting checks and things, sometimes the mail has been a little bit slower, unfortunately, due to the effects of COVID on the post office staff and its resources, and people mailing more too. So less people and more mail is causing delays on checks and things. So it really is helping, I think, people with their cash flows also. So I think that that's fantastic to note. So a quick question that we didn't talk about before, but that I did want to throw in is email deliverability. I talk to my clients all the time about the fact that email is where it's at, and that's how you need to talk to people to stay in front of them and top of mind. This is something that you and I have worked together on before. Can you talk to me a little bit about email deliverability and what you can do to help people with their marketing emails, whether they use Constant Contact or another email marketing provider, to make sure that those marketing emails hit the inbox or at least don't get marked as spam?
Absolutely. I think, you know, especially in today's day and age, if you're not doing some kind of email newsletter, you're really in a bad spot. And there are two pieces to that, right? There's the technology to hold your list and send it out appropriately. And then there's the content that goes behind it. And I think in both of those cases, you have to hire a professional. This isn't the case of banging something together and BCCing 500 people. That's just not going to work. You're going to end up in a bad place, and your regular emails won't even go through reliably if that's what you're doing. So don't do that, please. And if you are doing that, we need to get you out of that as soon as possible, and we can help with that. But having the tool in place is one piece. You're really sending one email to everybody on the list through a trusted system that allows them to unsubscribe, that has your address in it, that meets all the spam laws and requirements. And I would say, as a business owner, and talking to other business owners almost every day, people are afraid that people aren't going to want their emails, and so they don't do this. And that's not a valid fear. That's really just an excuse. People, especially your customers, want to hear from you. And if the only thing they get from you is an invoice, that's a problem in your relationship. And if they don't want your emails, they will hit the unsubscribe button, and they won't feel bad about it. And you shouldn't feel bad about seeing them unsubscribe. It's built in. It's an impersonal kind of thing. There's no hard feelings or anything like that. But it keeps you top of mind in front of those customers and potentially prospects as well, because nobody has, I'm sure businesses out there get, well, maybe we're thinking about us, call us back in a month. I mean, you can follow up with some of those leads only so long. Throw them on an email list and move on. If when they're ready, they'll reach out. And then circling back to what we were just talking about, things like invoices. I know we've tried to push to do more invoices delivered by email for all the things that you mentioned regarding post office reliability, quickness, certainly cost. It's much cheaper via email. Some customers are asking via email. We don't force anybody to go that route, but we want to make it easy if that's easy for people. I certainly want those emails delivered, right? My invoices are very important to me to get them into my customers' hands so that they can process them and turn around a payment, whether that's on our website or they are sending a check or doing something along those lines. There's a number of things to try to keep those emails out of junk boxes. Nothing is absolute, but there are a number of key technical details that you want to make sure. And some of those buzzwords are things like SPF records and DKIM records and DMARC records. And that's, I think, about as geek speak as I'm going to get today. You might have heard some of those terms bantered about, but if you are not sure whether you have those in place, we can do a free email checkup to take a look at that and just make sure you have those things in place. Because if you're using Constant Contact or MailChimp or any number of email sending programs and you haven't sort of told your email provider that you're doing that, something is going to end up in spam somewhere that shouldn't be. And so even if you're doing everything right, you can still get caught in spam. So you want to take advantage of the things you can control, and that allows your emails that you're sending to end up in people's inboxes rather than their junk, more so, and have as much control over that as possible. But that's something that's an ongoing battle and definitely something you want to pay attention to and leverage, because it is a critical tool in business today is email, more so than it ever has been.
Yeah. No, and thank you so much for covering, because I find it so important. One of the things that I've been telling a lot of people, and I heard it at a conference that I attended in 2020, was that social media is rented land. You own email marketing. And so it's so important. And to make sure that your emails get delivered is extremely important. And, paying you guys at IGD Solutions to go ahead and make sure that that's happening has a ton of value. So I definitely think it's really important. So thank you for that. So I know you've got a webinar coming up, and I'm looking at my notes over here. So February 9th at 10 a.m. I think it's on a really interesting and great topic. Can you tell us just a little bit more about what you plan to talk about?
Sure. Our webinar is on web accessibility and ADA compliance, and really why it matters, or why it should matter. What you need to know about it is really the crux of the webinar. The web was designed to be used on a computer, and then very quickly we realized that folks with disabilities needed certain accommodations. If you had a vision issue, or maybe a hearing issue, or sometimes with epilepsy, there's certain flashing movement kinds of things that are problematic. Sometimes it's a color blindness or a contrast. There are a number of things that sort of fall into that web accessibility. Sometimes it's just not being able to use a mouse and having to use a keyboard or another way, a screen reader in some cases. So we cover what that means and how a website could be accessible and what some of those requirements are. But a couple of years ago, the federal government sort of extended the requirement to make your website ADA accessible from just municipalities, libraries, and schools, which traditionally they're the only folks that have had to worry about this. And they've really expanded it to all businesses with more than 15 employees. And so there are actually lawyers in the country that will find websites that are not compliant, and they shop for a plaintiff to try to purchase something or interact with the website and then file a lawsuit. And none of these lawsuits really go away. They either settle or there's a judgment. So taking care of your accessibility is something that is a little bit of insurance against something like this. It's a little risk protection. And that's something that, depending on your business and your outlook, it might be right for you. We have had a number of solutions to this over the years. none as easy as we have right now. This is a case where technology has advanced and kind of caught up. Now it's a case of a very simple solution that can go on the website that handles this for you without having to really make coding changes or change the functionality of your website. So it's something that a lot of our customers are excited about. No longer is it, an open-ended, ongoing kind of a thing. It's kind of a quick fix now. And that's something we're going to cover in that webinar. And if that is at all interesting to you, if you're risk averse or you want to make sure your website is accessible for folks with disabilities, we're going to cover what all those things are, what all those standards are, and how to implement that sort of quick fix.
Yeah, I think that's hugely important, and I look forward to hearing more about it, because I do know that it's really important. And there are customers you want to reach that do have disabilities too. So beyond just the risk issue, making it so that your website is inclusive of everybody that needs it, I think just adds so much value. So I think this is timely and necessary, and I thank you for putting that in. So definitely looking forward to it. Now, if somebody's looking for more information on how to work with you guys, or if their website needs help, you guys provide free website evaluations, correct?
We absolutely do. A lot of times our interaction starts with somebody filling out an evaluation form on our website, or they get referred to us from one of our current clients or partners that are out there. In a pre-pandemic world, we would meet people at business events. That's not so much a thing anymore. But we want to help everybody we can possibly help. We talk for free. We're happy to take a look at something and have a conversation and understand what's going on. Very few things are one size fits all. Everything we've talked about here today, whether it's email deliverability or e-commerce or payment portals or web accessibility, none of those have a one size fits all, like this is what you need to do. It's all very dependent on what is going on in your particular business. What is the rest of your marketing plan? What is the rest of your strategy of how you interact with people? And that's usually where the conversation starts. We want to know what does your business do? And even if you're a business that has a label to it, it's like you're probably unique in some ways, and we want to understand what that is and make sure we're reflecting that in how you take advantage of the internet. And so if it's credibility that you're going for, that's one piece. If it's ease of transacting business, we go in a slightly different direction. If you're generating leads on social media, it might even be a different direction. There's probably 100 different ways that you can leverage things, and that's something that we can have that conversation, understand what makes sense in your particular case, and then come up with a plan. And very, very few times does it make sense to do 10 things at once. Very much we're into the crawl, walk, run philosophy of let's bite off a piece that we can both handle in terms of time and money and attention investment. Let's accomplish that, and then let's look at what's next. And typically that works over the evolution of businesses, because you want to grab that low hanging fruit, put it in place, and take advantage of it right now. And then you want to do more after that, and then you want to do more after that. If it works, you want to do even more. And that sort of crawl, walk, run philosophy has served us well. It's served our clients well. And that we'd certainly welcome the conversation to see what you have going on, and if everything you have.
So much, Steve. And thank you all for tuning in to hear more about Steve Hyer and IGD Solutions. They do help you make sense of the internet and the digital marketing world, I think, overall. So if you're interested in learning more, the contact information is right down there. Go ahead, visit their website at igdsolutions.com. You can send an email to their team at info@igdsolutions.com, or give them a call at 248-625-0817. Thank you.
Thank you.